Oh, I'm here for, bro. Come on, let me see that blade guide. We got like a Wolverines first. We got like a Wolverines first, though. Looks like a Wolverines first. His came out first. His came out first. I did the same thing yesterday. Oh shit.
Is there a limb you really need to keep?
Is there
I'll try not to take it.
Unyielding Warrior. Oh, it's the first time we're hearing his theme. He says, "Is there a limb you really need to keep?" Who the fuck says that to someone?
Need to keep? I'll try not to take it.
Who says that to people?
You're cooked, bub.
5-star difficulty. Okay. Almost look okay. Kind of stubby-ish.
Like that.
This theme sounds okay. You watched the Blade one already? No, not yet. Get after this. More stars easier? Yes.
Weapon X.
Weapon X.
Berserker Claw.
Follow up with Berserker finish. Running moves on contact.
No walking away.
Oh, he has a dive. What the hell? He could charge it.
My turn.
That shit kind of look like Soul Bad Guys move. Wait, what? The animation kind of look like Soul Bad Guys. Am I tripping?
My turn.
I can't see it. He's off screen. Oh, wait. What is the difference? Someone activating Berserk Rage on hit. Performed on Berserk. Oh, there's additional hits and so Berserk Rage. Oh, shit. That's cool.
Berserker Maul.
Is that an overhead? He has a floor bounce. Overhead. From 2 bounces. Cool. Oh shit, that's not in the air. Built in overhead, low mix up, yeah. A bunch of different follow-ups for Rekka. That low is so fast. What the fuck? That's the low? Dude, that shit is so fast. What? Okay, I think you block low, and then if you see him doing overhead, oh my god, look him in the air. Yeah, it's the overhead seems to be more reactable though, so I think you always block low against this dude. And then if you see him doing the overhead, you block high. Hold on, let me see this again. Let me see the overhead again. Okay, yeah, the overhead is more reactable. The low is not reactable. The low is not reactable, bro.
Berserker Sweep.
All of them are fast as fuck. Cool. Don't spam my chat. What are you doing? But what does that do? If I remember Berserker Rage attack deals additional hits, ends Berserker Rage. Counting your pauses? I'll get off dick.
Berserker Charge.
This is a stab. Perform a close range attack, activating Berserker Rage on hits. We follow up Berserker Claw, Berserker Dive. It can endure any attacks that can be blocked. Wait, what? It can endure any attack that can be blocked from partway through the action. The input can be held to the later action. Oh, that shit has armor on it. That shit got range. It crumples. Ooh, it crumples. Probably jab and do that stab into an assist.
X-Force.
The projectile?
Mark the spot.
The hell is that? He did. Oh, you do it downwards too. Okay. Oh shit, that beats that. Can negate projectiles as well. Wow. Whoa, that move looks cool. You get a combo off that.
Let's go for a ride.
Okay. Damn, it pushes him forward to you where you're spinning at if you exit. Damn, how many moves this dude got? Damn. That's armor? Wow. I can't believe we're finally almost towards launch of this game. The game is finally almost out. I can't believe it.
Backup on standby. Wolverine.
Here I come.
I am clear to proceed, Wolverine. Preparations complete, Wolverine.
Okay. What's up, Agent Noob? Appreciate that, dude. Hope you have a good day as well. Well, what is this move? This is his down input? What the fuck is this?
I am clear to proceed, Wolverine.
What the fuck?
Preparations complete, Wolverine.
Okay. That looks like a low, but also looks like it's an overhead. It looks like it looks like an overhead because he's in the sky, but also like he's doing an empty jump into an low. Is he hitting you on the floor or in the air? I think he's hitting you once he gets to the floor.
We're a pack together.
Nah, that's a weird move. I gotta check if that's a overhead. That's a background character. Sadly, yes. Wait, what's his unique assist? This is shooter. This is vertical. Oh, it's that. That's not that bad. Not that crazy, but it probably hits block stuns you for a while.
Adamantium rays. Cut you into pieces.
Pretty fast super. Oh, he's in the air?
For action. Savage instinct.
Savage instinct?
Look out. When Wolverine's out on the hunt.
Okay, so after you use this move activates Berserker Rage, stay on hit, and makes it possible to use one powered up move without ending Berserker Rage. Wow, so we can get a completely different combo afterwards. Because he'll get 2 Berserk moves. Oh yeah, he can get a longer combo after that. Because he gets 2 Berserk moves. Wolverine never did that move, says who? Also moves. Oh, that's auto combo.
Cause you ain't surviving this.
He's a Beyblade. Combos.
Dodge this. There.
Oh.
Here.
Oh, wait, that was sick. And then he gets Berserker State afterwards. Magic assist. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Yo, wait. Okay. They fucking hate Star-Lord and Spider-Man. I'm sorry. They hate those two. Because ain't no way all these characters got sauce like this. And then for Star-Lord and Spider-Man's combo section, they say, yeah, fuck these dudes. Nah, this is crazy, bro. What the fuck is that? Nah, they hate those two. That shit is crazy. My man's doing side switches and zigzags and shit. Son. My man's doing double side switch bombos. Assist. Okay. Another assist. Oh, vertical assist. Slide on the wall. Savage instinct. Nah, Wolverine's sick in this game.
Can't say I didn't warn ya. Let's bring it in.
I love how the screen goes black and white if it's the kill. If it's the kill move. The finishing blow of Wolverine.
Undergoing backup.
Oh my god, this combo looks so long. He's just hitting you a shitload of times. Wait, how many hits was that combo?
Undergoing backup.
I can't see. 31, 37, 38, 39, 43. Damn! Holy shit! What's up, Joy?
On my mark. This is it. Let's go.
Let's go. Wow.
One of us gets to walk away.
Oh, you thought I was playing Tokon already? No. See the blade guy? We're about to look at it right now. I can listen to Steve Blum talk any day. Hey, yo, you goon enjoy?
Shouldn't have got on my bad side.
You goon enjoy? All right, y'all know what we need. Not a moment we've been waiting for. You know what I need to see. You know what I need to see. Let me see the 19. You know what I need to see. You know what I need to see. What first anime crushes? How can I not? Oh, his theme.
Get ready. The sharpest sword in the world is coming at you.
Oh, wait, this white one is crazy, bro. This black and white one is crazy. East of Use 5 stars. What? Is everyone just 5 stars? I have not seen anyone like below 5, I feel. Blood and Steel.
I've just come off 5 years training as a samurai.
Let me see this. Normals look okay. Oh, that one looks crazy. Is that a Stan M? Oh, this is advancing. Is that his 2H? Oh, he got a Yasuo normals. Okay. Yo, was that the Hitman? Son, is that Hitman from DNF, dude? Yo!
That was a good
Son. Heartstopper. Okay, you throw silver stakes as project. Oh, it's a currency. Expends 1 Heartstopper stock. The stakes automatically aim towards the opponent's position. You can aim them with the direction controllers during the action to throw more quickly in a specified direction. On hit, activates the marked for death state, which powers up a single skill use, which I'm assuming is gonna power up his sword. Yeah, that's why his sword is glowing.
No mercy.
Oh my god, you can snipe someone in the air like that? Yeah, I know you can like throw the stake and teleport to people. Oh, you can throw it any direction. Oh shit. Oh, this combo's gonna be crazy. You can throw it in any direction you want. So if you press U, it refills it. Damn, they skip that scene really fast. Oh, it works while grounded. Okay. Stocks are depleted, press U, and yeah, it'll refill it. So you only have 3 max, okay. Day Rocker Deflect. He has a reflect? Oh shit. Going against any attack. Damn, I didn't get to finish reading that. What? It's not even humanly possible to read that fast. After going against an attack from the opponent's leader character. It has to be the leader character, so it can't be an assist. But what happens if you do block the assist? Does it just do nothing? I guess he just probably doesn't follow up with the counter attack. After this disregard, the mark for death state is activated. Okay, so anything you do just powers up his sword. Yeah, so it's powered up again.
I'm still watching you.
Bullet barrage. Machine gun. Okay. Wow, this is already better than the fucking Rivals shotgun. Wow, that's insane. Aim it downwards too. EX is it? Okay. Weapons hot. Throw the stake. Oh, and you can teleport to. Ooh. Yo, what is that normal? This is why Yasuo stands H. What? Son, what is this? What game we playing? This is like Yasuo stands H. Or what's her name? Spectre from DNF, bro. What is this? Powerful slashing attack. The L version slashes at above angles, medium and heavy. Oh, so this is a misfinder. Oh shit. Okay. Use visibility on area attacks partway through the action, making it a great option against aerials. So I'm guessing you do that and you throw a stake at him, teleport to him combo. Oh, what the hell is that? What? Is that a follow-up? Or is that the EX version, I guess? Gain additional damage, blowback during mark for death and can be followed up a hard stopper on hit. So do you only do that follow-up if you're marked for death? So I think on the EX it still does it. Oh no, it still does it. Oh wait, no, wait, what? Okay, that's just the the EX version. Holy shit. Oh, it rolls them if they're marked for death. What the fuck? Look at that. Watch you didn't die. What's up, dude? What's with a 30? Whoa. Oh yeah. Cool. Oh, the corner carry on that looks really good. This combo's gonna be crazy, yeah.
It won't do them any good.
Vampire cleave. What the fuck is this? Lunge forward, performing a slashing attack on hit. The move pierces and charges through the opponent. Gain additional damage and blowback during mark for death. It can be followed with heart stopper on hit. So you can throw a stake afterwards. You can either get a side switch, throw a stake, or hit him like that and throw a stake. That gives a bounce. That one gives a roll. So if they're marked for death, wait, what? Okay, that one's marked for death. Okay, yeah, the mark for death ones give a roll. Ooh. The hell is this? It's probably gonna be his air assist. Damn, this move looks crazy. Lunge for performing a slash. Wait, no, I just read this. Oh, you can just use it in the air. That's what it looks like in the air. EX version gives a bounce. Oh my god, the heart stopper version makes you slide like that. Wouldn't the bounce be better though, technically? I mean, it slows time for a while, so you definitely have. Oh my god. Yo, that's a gigantic bounce if they're marked for death. The EX version rolls them. Oh, that stake. Ooh.
I got my start in the 70s.
You can kind of hear the theme is like, what? That is Hitman. What? Wait, that is literally Hitman's. What? This is literally Hitman from Vietnam Duel. Holy shit, but it's on crack. It's literally Hitman, but on crack. What? Where's Hitman? Hold on. Let me show you this. It's Hitman, but on crack. Where the fuck is Hitman? Where is he? It's Hitman, but on crack. Which one is it? Jesus Christ. Yeah. It's this move, but on crack. Oh, fuck that, bro.
Gotcha.
It pulls like crazy, bro. What is so that's a different move from the one earlier? So this is his down input. A projectile attack that launches forward, returning in a straight line. The attack is still active while the projectile returns. It cannot be used again while the attack is active. Once the projectile comes into contact with blade, it can be used immediately again. What? Can you run during? Oh, you definitely can. Oh my god, that hit stance for so long. Oh wow. Yeah, everyone's down that move is crazy in this game, yeah. I wonder if it messes up scaling on combos though. Probably not. Whoa, that is a funky move.
I can share.
What is this? Oh, he gets a projectile, nice. That's his vertical assist. Oh, that's not a bad unique one. What? It still goes even if he misses? That's pretty good. Even if he misses, so if you try and jump over the stakes, it's still gonna fucking hit you. Oh, okay, so it's down since he shoots the projectiles. Good angle.
I'm not your babysitter.
Oh, it's a dash. Steve don't sound bad either. Not as cool as I hope, but it's not bad.
There you are. I've heard noise.
Damn. That assist, it's about to side switch, but doesn't.
Darkness is my domain. Mas, are you ready? Nothing stops the more.
Damn. Okay, so the follow-up attack becomes even more powerful after hitting the opponent. Mark for death is activated for the next 2 skills. So it's like Wolverine's Bloodlust. It's like what Wolverine gets. Wolverine gets Berserker stay for the next 2 as well. He has the same thing. Because everyone's super does some like follow-up afterwards. Like, for example, for the rest of the match, Dr. Doom's projectiles are enhanced. Or Magic, what does Magic get? I forgot what Magic gets. But everyone gets like some sort of thingy. I know Spider-Man's webs hit stun more or something like that.
Nothing stops the more monster blade.
Some people definitely seem to be stronger than others though. But usually after you use a move like this, I mean, they're probably almost dead, so it doesn't really even matter. But I feel like some people's that last infinitely are probably better. Oh, this is what it looks like if they're... Wait, what the fuck?
Nothing stops the more monster blade.
What? From a fall attack unleashing. Okay, so if it's far away, wait. Okay.
Let me show you perfect.
Okay, what the fuck? So this is the long range version.
Let me show you.
Yeah, it is. The long range version does this cutscene. Weapons hot. Yeah, close range it does this. Okay. Yeah, I am gonna finish it on. What about it?
You're welcome.
Oh, bombos. Oh shit. Bro, his normals are so long.
No mercy.
Oh no, this is gas. Oh my god, that's so high. Oh, this is gas. Whoa, what the fuck? From that far? That's how we get down? The step back? From that far?
They've got all the records.
That's how we get down? Is Blade playable this weekend? Yeah. That's how we get down?
You're welcome.
That's how we get down? From that far?
You're welcome.
What did he do here? Let me see this again. Hold on.
You're welcome.
Was medium, what, 5M, 2M, 5H, bow stakes. The stakes stun you for that long to where you can use this? Are you dead ass?
You're welcome.
He reloaded the stakes while, oh, interesting. So he reloaded the stakes while they were stuck in hit stun. Look, he's reloading, you see? Medium heavy. Okay, throw the stakes again. Damn.
No mercy.
No mercy. Weapons hot. Sheesh. Sheesh. My bad, saucy with it. From this far though, that's OD. Step back. Oh, why is my computer lagging? Controlling me.
They've got all the wreck in the world.
All right, let's see it. Tokon assemble. This we haven't seen before.
Follow me.
Follow me.
Hold still.
Oh shit.
Rest in peace.
Damn. Shit.
You lost, but you're lucky.
Shit.
You're still alive.
That was pretty sick. 1,000 cuts. Oh, he has this in the. Oh, that was hard. That was hard. I didn't know it was his victory screen. Nah, that was hard. Fucking hell, this weekend's gonna be a movie, bro. Nah, that was hard.
I specialize in offing vampires.
Nah, this weekend's gonna be a movie. That shit is so sick, bro. Oh, this weekend's gonna be great, bro. Holy. This weekend's gonna be great. Greatness, bro. Greatness. God damn. Gotta get games together. I'm down, Joy. I'm down. I'm 100% down. I'm gonna be there at 3 a.m. I am down. I am 100% down, bro. Okay, that's it for today's thingies, I guess. They still, so that's 2 they just dropped, so that's 14 now that they've shown. So tomorrow is gonna be, what's his name? Wait, I'm missing someone. It's not just Green Goblin. Who else is tomorrow? They haven't shown someone. I'm missing a character. Oh, Danger. Danger. Shuri's is here. Wait. Oh shit, they haven't done Shuri. There's 3 missing. Wait, what? Shit, you're right. Shuri, Danger, and damn, so they have to drop 3 tomorrow. They have to drop Shuri, they have to drop Danger, and they have to drop Green Goblin. Because they just were last minute added Green Goblin to the beta. Wonder why they decided to do that. Well, I guess we'll see that tomorrow. We'll be seeing that tomorrow. Okay. That's it for not for Avatar. For Tokon. That was pretty fucking sick. We will be there, obviously. That Blade trailer was gas. Let me look at them combos one more time. Kind of a I'm low-key biased, I can't lie. Them bombos was sick. Damn. They actually gave him the Hitman special, bruh.
First noise.
Weapons. I'm glad he used a special in the air. I feel like I always play characters that you can't use special in the air. Stand up. Wait, what's that supposed to mean? Hey, yo. Weapons hot.
Darkness is my way. They've got all the wreck in the world.
Tokon assemble. Look at this again. Hold on.
Hold still.
Does that have another Hitman in another game? What the hell?
You lost, but you're lucky. You're still alive.
You're lucky you're still alive. That shit was hard. Nah, these guys are crazy. I gotta re-download the old version of the beta again. Nah, this is gonna be a new one for sure.
I specialize in offing vampires.
All right, do you guys want to look at this Avatar thingy? You guys want to look at this Avatar thingy or what? Avatar review from Globku.